Good afternoon and welcome to Jeff and the Rabbi. Cool topic today.
Very cool.
Very cool topic. Quantum physics and the explanation of God. And I've heard this discussion before. You know, it's a little tough for me. But I'm going to go down to the basics. I'm going to give you an interesting intro. My theory is this. Throughout the ages, atheists or so-called atheists have used science to disprove God.
Right.
That's their big thought. Well, there's science, so there can't be God.
Right.
They've done this back in the 1700s, the 1600s.
Science.
And now even today, when it's more of the progressives, it's just kind of a simple thing. They don't even have to explain what the science is. Well, do you believe God? No. Why not? Science. And you can just use the one word, science.
Disprove God, that's right.
That's it right there, because they are, and it really has even come more than that. Now it's either you're intelligent or you're these guys that, you know, and again,
Right.
I know I quote my favorite author here every show, clinging to your God and your gun and your Bible. I seem to quote that.
Science, rational,
Right.
irrational, God.
Right, and that is it. So you're either irrational, you have no thinking, or you're studying and you know science. Now, one theory, and this is not quantum physics, but I think it would lead into it. Well, I think it really talks about the science versus God. And I took this off of something I read, and I've kind of extrapolated and changed it to my own version. If you got a tree, a big, huge hunk of wood, a tree, and you stick a stick of dynamite in that tree. I'm basing on what somebody else said, but I've taken it a little further. Or you take 2 sticks of dynamite, or 10, or 1,000 sticks of dynamite, or nuclear fission, whatever you want. You blow the tree up. You can blow that tree up 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000,000 times. And no matter how many times you blow that tree up, it is statistically and scientifically impossible that the shreds of the tree and the splinters are going to come down in a perfect dining room table and chairs.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. You can try it every way you want to try it. It's just not going to happen. And I think a scientist would agree with that. Now, the only way, at least in my mind, I think that you can ever do it is maybe you've got the best programmer in the entire world. If someone hadn't even been born yet, who could write a program, and maybe you can take that hunk of wood and stick dynamite based on this program in certain areas and blow it up enough that maybe what would be left would be a rudimentary table, and maybe another hunk of wood would be rudimentary chairs. But that's the same type statistical odds of creating man and creating this world. It just can't happen. I don't care what gravity does. So to me, science, and you know, even the programming, you even had, you know, you've even seen that. You have DNA, you can prove it. But today, I would say that, to me, science does prove God. Because no matter how many times a scientist gives your explanation of the creation of the world, was the Big Bang Theory, and this happened, this happened, and this happened, there's always one thing, whether that's that missing link or the missing element, there's always one thing that's not there. And
Right.
that one thing has to be God. And I think that in itself is pretty much of an explanation of God.
And people could always ask the question, you know, they talk about the two things came together and they collided. Well, where did the two things come from? Or where did the Big Bang bang from? Like, if something has to be there to bang, so who made that? You know?
And then that's always the whole, so the whole situation is, and scientists, and I guess the people who say they're so smart and so intelligent are always happy to leave that one missing thing,
Right.
the one missing element. But, you know, we don't know that, but we know it was a Big Bang. So my theory is science in itself proves God. Now, I know quantum physics now takes it to a next level. Well, I think it even comes closer to proving God, because the relationship of two things it almost makes you think that maybe, okay, where's 3 dimensions, maybe there's 4 dimensions, and maybe possibly even 5, and I think quantum physics kind of takes us there. So that's my lead-off to Dr. Physicist Rabbi Friedman here.
Right. This is, you know, and the truth is, you know, never having taken a physics course in my life and having always been a rabbi, this is my great opportunity to, like, you know, this is why the beauty of the internet.
Yes.
Because, like, any guy can just decide he's a physicist and then just get up here and pontificate and all that, and where does it matter, you know?
Point.
So it's really a beautiful thing. I have to thank the Al Gore for inventing the internet, because, you know, this is doing great for me in my career.
I thank him every day.
Yeah, that's right. So you might say that science as it exists now still needs God. I would say that as we're coming to understand quantum physics, it really only can be explained, or let me put it this way. To my understanding, rudimentary as it is, to my understanding, if I was God and I was going to create a world that would allow me to conduct the world in a certain way, yet leave it open to constant change as necessary. In other words, I want a certain consistency, and yet I want it open for a certain amount of change, just in case, like, I may have to split a sea here and there,
Right.
or bring some manna down for heaven, or just have someone like who's here be over there all of a sudden. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics is the way I would construct that world. Because what quantum mechanics really says is that there is no reality, it's all probability. Until, of course, the reality has been witnessed, and then it becomes reality. But until then, it's all probability, which is really a wonderful thing, because you can say most of the time, the man that's here cannot get to there in less than 5 hours.
Right.
But there is always a certain small percentage of possibility that the man who's here can get there in 5 minutes. There is, because quantum physics will say that you have one body here and one body there. The X number of times it'll take the person 5 hours to get there, and a certain number of times, certain percentage of times, it'll take the person 4 hours, and sometimes 3 hours, sometimes, and there will be 1% of the time that it'll take the person 5 minutes to get there, because there is no reality. So here's the, and I'm not going to get into all of these. So you can look on the internet, lots of great shows. There's a guy, Brian Greene, that's doing a lot of popularizing, helping people understand, like simpletons like myself, understand quantum mechanics. But there's really a neat idea. This is the idea that drove Einstein crazy. Einstein couldn't stand this idea. There is an idea in quantum mechanics called entanglement.
Okay.
Entanglement. Entanglement's a really neat idea. So first of all, let me say, Newtonian physics and all that really works well with big items. When you got big items, it seems to work well. However, as we get down to a world that starts with the largest item being an atom, and we go smaller down from there, and all the particles smaller, we find that things just don't work according to the laws of Newtonian physics. We find that things can be in two places at once. We find that things don't follow the same program. They don't follow set rules. There is no determinism. So one of the neatest things they have found, and this has been established through applying some quantum theories, mathematical theories, and also way beyond me, I saw the theory. It looks really cool. Lots of numbers, X's and Y's and lines and all that. But the bottom line is...
That's just basic arithmetic for me. But
yeah, right. So like that's us slow guys, I don't know. You know.
Right.
So the bottom line in entanglement is like this. You take these two atoms, and the two atoms, let's say, are linked to each other. And then you separate them. Put one over there and one over there.
Now, first, they have to have some kind of charge going on, right?
Let's say they got some. Let's say they got some charge. Yeah, there's some connection to them.
So where the electron will move here, and the electron will move here. Right.
So they're related to each other.
Right.
Now you send one over there and one over there. When you give this one a spin this way, that one starts spinning the other way.
Yep.
They're nowhere near each other.
So, on the other side of the Earth, you could just
right. You can move them away to like they've extrapolated this out to like light years apart.
Yep.
They could be light years apart. And they've tested this thing over and over and over again, and they see that it works. Now, no one really knows why. No one really understands why. But that is such a neat idea.
Yeah, so they had like suppose what I said, they had an original charge here, and even if you move them for whatever, that charge, no matter what happens, that'll continue.
Right.
You spin it.
These two are somehow linked. They're entangled with each other.
Right.
They're entangled with each other, and if I twist this one, I give this one a spin this way, that one's going to start spinning that way. Really neat, you know, or like the way the guy said, you know, if you got like, if you got two roulette wheels, or you know, two wheels that you know that you spin the wheels, and one of them always lands on red, the other one reds and blues. One of them will land on red, the other will always land on blue. Even if you take one of them and put it on the moon.
Right.
You know, so that's really strange. How does that work? How can that work? So that is a really neat idea. Now, we have an idea, And I think, certainly in Judaism, maybe in all God-based thought, that if I pray for you, you can somehow experience some improvement.
Right.
One guy's praying for another guy. We also believe, by the way, in an idea called ayin hara. Ayin hara means the evil eye, which means that, I can think bad about you, and it actually hurts you. And you can be like, way in the other end of the world. You're on the space station.
Right.
And I'm like down here on Earth, not even at Houston.
Right.
And I'm like thinking bad or good, and somehow that's impacting you. Well, very strange. Why should that be? How could it be? We got these 3 boys kidnapped by the Arabs by whoever kidnapped them. No one's laying claim right now, but someone kidnapped them.
Right.
Okay, they're kidnapped in Israel. Everyone is obviously very distressed about that. So what does the religious populace do? The religious populace says, well, we know what we got to do. We got to start praying. And everyone's praying, and in all the synagogues, they're doing extra prayers for these guys. And, we're gonna pray them out of there. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're gonna just pray them back home to safety. And everyone is determined and working hard. Then the army's doing its thing. And, if the army finds them, all the religious people can say, well, because we prayed them right to the guys, and we prayed them on out of there, right? That's what we're going to say. And that's what we believe. Now, where do we get that from? Well, if you believe in entanglement, then you believe you got a group of people that are entangled with each other. This is a Jewish boy over there. There's a Jewish boy over here. We're entangled. Now, even though he's all the way over there and I'm all the way over here, but we all came from one source spot. And we all got this charge. We're all sharing the charge. And once we have the charge, if I start spinning it, I'm going to spin it, and I'm going to help him. We also believe there was a great sage died in the 1880s. His name was Rabbi Israel Salant. Rabbi Israel Salant, he introduced a whole new approach in Judaism with the emphasis on ethical perfection. And he used to say that when a Jew in Eastern Europe, which was at the time very religious, and Western Europe at the time was very irreligious, he used to say, when a Jew doesn't say a blessing on his food in Eastern Europe, a Jew in Paris intermarries. In other words, he used to say, he used to say this is a nice idea, well, God judges you and God judges him, and he was trying to say that we're all interrelated. Well, I say entanglement says that it actually happens, because since we are all entangled with each other, then you see that I can impact him and he can impact me, and we can impact events that are all around the globe.
But does the guy who's trying to do the impacting, does he have to have and understand how to make that connection? Is it just through prayer, or does he have to understand, listen, I got to connect with the oneness of the world, or of the universe, or is there a way he has to do it to connect, to get you specifically, Rabbi Freeman, connect with you?
Lowest level is his actions. His actions, thoughtless, mindless, intentionless. His actions, if this guy starts spinning, when the scientist over here gives this one a spin, he doesn't say, I'm spinning this way so that one will spin that way. He just gives a spin.
Yeah, but how does this guy over in Eastern Europe connect with Rabbi Friedman?
Specifically? It doesn't matter, because we are already entangled to start with. We all talk about how all the Jews that ever were and ever will were at Mount Sinai. They all experienced that oneness of experiencing God. What I believe, the way you could interpret this, if you want to take a quantum approach, is that God entangled all the Jews forevermore in this way. So now, if I just act, so that'll impact the other Jews, because we're all entangled. If I act with intention, it'll impact even more. If I act with intention and focused thought to generate impact on the other one, I believe it'll impact even more. So this would explain this idea why we promote prayer, why the good deeds of one person could impact another person. Like, how is it that I pray for the safety of Israel? What does my praying for the safety of Israel in Atlanta have to do with Israel? What does that have to do with anything? And yet, we do that. Or my actions, I believe, will impact other Jews. So that's one way. This idea of entanglement is really an idea that we see that Jewish thought is based on all over the place. The Torah just lives off of this. That's one example.
But interesting enough, I think many Eastern philosophies all come from this same concept. They believe if you can clear your mind, if you can connect with this other person, or if you connect through spirituality, or you connect through some way through the universe, that you're going to affect the other person. Are they all kind of come through the same system?
It could very well be. It could very well be. I'm not a... I'm so to tell you the truth, when I was taking Eastern thought that semester, I was a little, goofing off a little bit. So, yes, I'm not so up on that. But if that's what they believe, to me, as I understand, Eastern thought's a lot focused on my relationship with the oneness or the nothingness or whatever. But if it believes in the interrelationship, that's fine and dandy. I think that it exists. That's all. That's all. But I'll tell you another interesting one. We believe in a world of miracles, okay, that the God can make miracles. The problem with every miracle is that every rationalist can't stand that. So let's say the Bible says the sea split. So either people say, well, the Bible is wacky because seas don't split, and therefore I can tell I'm only up to the book of Exodus, but I see that this story is
move on.
Right, or why did they have to wreck up a big book by putting the good book by putting all this implausible, miraculous stuff in there? That's, one approach, right? Or the other approach is that they come up with some explanation. Well, it's high tides and the seas and the planets and all this stuff, right? But they can't stand the fact that God does miracles. Quantum mechanics says that the world isn't predetermined, that there's always going to be a certain percentage of variation. For example, if I had an electron billiard table,
right?
Okay, so Sir Isaac Newton would say, if I hit the ball with the exact same velocity, the exact same angle, same table, same conditions, same humidity, atmosphere, everything totally the same, and I hit it exactly the same, the results should be the same.
Identical.
They have to be identical. Quantum mechanics says that they usually will be the same.
Right.
But there's going to be, quantum mechanics says there is a percentage that won't be the same. That ball's always going that way every single time, except all of a sudden one time it's just going to go off the other direction. Right? And they know that, and they've been able to predict that, and they can even tell you the odds are it's going to be X amount of times it's going to go the other way. Even though the determinism of Newtonian physics would say it can't be.
That makes no sense according to Newtonian physics.
Can't be. But yet they've shown it happens over and over and over again. So, what do I say? Let's say I was God. Let's say I'm God, and I want the world to work according to a certain basic nature, that there's a nature to the way things work. However, I want to maintain total control of this situation. And now and then, I am going to perhaps have some other unpredicted result occur. I want something to happen differently this time. The guy is going to pull out the gun, and he is going to shoot the other guy. Normally, that blows the other guy to smithereens. One time, however, I want the bullet to bounce off and go the other direction.
That would be like supernature.
That would be supernature.
Or supernatural.
But if it's quantum, quantum mechanics will say that, you know what? One out of a certain number of times, that is what's going to happen. The bullet's just going to bounce off.
But it doesn't know what, but quantum mechanics wouldn't tell you when and where.
Right. But if I was God and I wanted to reserve for myself the right to decide when that was going to happen, that would be a great way to fix it up. That would be a great way to set the whole thing up. Now, Mr. Einstein, he really was uptight about that. That to him was that was spooky. He said, that's spooky stuff. You can't believe it. He actually said the spooky thing about the entanglement, but he didn't like quantum mechanics. He wanted a world that you could predict. You could say, where is this atom at any given moment? And, the quantum people said, no, the atom isn't really anywhere at any given moment. You can give a probability as to where you might expect to find it, but until it's been observed somewhere, it isn't there.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Right. Here. It's not anywhere until it is observed to be somewhere. Once it's observed to be somewhere. Wow, that's such an interesting idea. The Gemara, the Talmud says, Ein bracha sholeit ela al davar hasamui mina ayin. Blessing only dominates or is in force on things that are hidden from the eye. So you know what that means? This is how they talk about it. You know what you're supposed to do if you got gold? You have a bunch of gold, coins, whatever you got.
Right.
Bury it in the ground. You know how you bury it in the ground? When you come back, there might be more there than when you buried. Now, if you're there and you're looking at it all the time, you're counting up, the worst thing you can do, if you want your gold to increase, don't count it.
Okay.
The worst thing to do is counting it. Because when you counting it, so according to the Talmud, once you count it, you preclude God's ability to give it blessing. He can't increase it because, you keep counting it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 pieces. God can't put an 11th one there because you just made it 10. But if you just leave it alone and don't look at it and don't count it, you might go back and go, thought I left 10 there, but I guess there's 11 there now. So leave it alone. Don't observe it. That's what the quantum physicists are saying. Once you observe something, it's there. Until you observe something, it's not even there. So therefore, God can put as much of it there as He wants.
And that's kind of been proven. I mean,
yes.
that really has been. When you don't deserve, so in other words, if the tree falls in the forest, you don't see it, the tree didn't fall.
Right. That's
or maybe it didn't fall.
Yeah. Listen, so you've got money, and you come back and you go, wow, look at that. A lot more than I thought was there. How do you like that? So the Talmud says, don't count your money. Give God some room. The quantum physicists would say the same thing. Don't keep counting the money. Because, if the money with these little quanta, these little teeny tiny packets of energy, don't count them all the time. Once you observe them, they are where they are and we are what they are. As long as they're unobserved, they could be all kinds of things. They could even be two places at once.
So pretty much energy, I guess if we want to look at it, I'm trying to say more simple-like, it's energy. Everything's energy, and it might not be exactly the same. It might, if you don't observe it, it didn't happen, and it can change because it's just energy.
It could change.
I know it's a dollar bill or whatever, but it's all energy.
Yeah, and a God could give you a blessing. You had so much there, maybe you have so much more there now. God could make it increase.
And this isn't just your theory. This is what quantum mechanics is.
This is what quantum.
It's been proven.
Right. So I got a statement in the Talmud. The Talmud says blessing only transpires on things that are hidden from the eye. Quantum mechanics says things aren't there until they're observed. Now, blessing means that I have X, but God can make it X plus 1. That's a blessing, because I only had X, and God blessed it, and now it's X plus 1. Right? Well, the quantum mechanic, hey, go over there, sorry, got a problem with my car, getting my quantum mechanic to fix it.
Right.
So my quantum mechanic will say that, what you have, you don't necessarily have until you observe it. So the more you keep counting it, the more you keep locking it in to be what you got. If you want to let it go and let God do blessing in it, so don't observe it. That's another one. In other words, I could go through so many of these rules, so these quantum mechanics rules. I'm not saying, because tomorrow, who knows what they're going to come up with. Quantum mechanics, whole new thing, quantum mechanics plus, tantum mechanics.
Right.
Lantum mechanics, stantum mechanics. I don't know.
Or Friedmanian
Yeah,
mechanics.
Friedmanian mechanics, right, whatever it is. Who
Right.
knows what they're going to come up with. So I'm not saying, what I am saying is that the system, two things actually, that this system of quantum mechanics, the more and more we learn about it, the more and more it seems to fit with the system of understanding life as the Torah and particularly the sages in the Talmud have described it. That's one thing. And another thing is just a general lesson. For all of the people who for all of this time, as you opened with, have poo-pooed religion because it's not matching up with the science as we know it, the science as we know it
Catching up with religion.
changes, You can't put all your money on yesterday's science because, Mr. Newton did a really good job for a long time.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, we found out that it's not. And, all the stuff that we do with all this with all the little movements of nanoparticles and everything like that makes all our cell phones work and everything. All this is based on a different physics than we had all those years. So people put down, this couldn't happen, miracles couldn't happen, and all that type of stuff. I got news for you. Every day, miracles are looking better and better and better. As a matter of fact, they, in a way, sort of looking less miraculous. Miracles are really what we would call miracles. We're going to come to a world, I believe, when we come into a quantum world, where we're going to see that miracles are reality, because it's all just probabilities.
Which is extremely interesting, and I guess what it says, maybe just to paraphrase what you're saying, is listen, there's a lot going on back there behind the scenes, and quantum physics allows you science people out there, you people that are more intelligent than the religious people out there who at least think you are, allows you to say, yeah, there are miracles going on. And you might want to call them quantum mechanics, you might want to call them whatever, but it's going on, and it's going on every day. And I think, as you put it, eventually I think we're all going to come to the conclusion, we'll learn a little more, and we'll say, yeah, wait a minute, there is room in this world for stuff that we don't see and we don't know, and it's really happening.
If you take most days, most hours, most minutes, the sea is like that. But there is a probability there, however slim it is, it's already built in that the sea stands up, that the water stands up like that. Most of the time, the water's gravity like that. Sometimes the sea, sometimes those same little atoms just stand on top of each other. Usually they just lay flat next to each other. Sometimes they pile up on top of each other. And it's built in. There is a certain probability. Once there is that probability, however slim it is, well, then it's there and ready to go, because one time, out of who knows how many, it is going to happen.
Well, all right, well, now that we got everybody straight with your quantum sciences here, I think everybody understands now. All right, good stuff. And as we said earlier, we were going to mix this in with the marijuana show here to make it a little easier, which we had a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Now maybe you guys might have understood it a little bit better, but we decided to separate them for decorum's sakes.
Different realities, yeah.
All right, great. Well, we will see you again next week with another interesting and, mind-boggling episode of Jeff and the Rabbi. Yeah.